I have at various times been accused of taking the fun out of writing. All this talk about the heartache and loneliness about the process of writing sure does take the shine off the art. Though I think some of you actually enjoy that even though it's painful. Yes, you're a bad writer. You're a bad writer, aren't you? Aren't you? I'm gonna circle this comma splice right here with my red pen. That intro got kind of weird quickly. Anyway, today I want to talk about putting the fun back in writing. Yes, writing can at times be a difficult pursuit, but enduring that pain doesn't mean you can't get enjoyment out of the process. While there is difficulty inherent in serious writerly projects, there is still the opportunity for fun. Writing can still be fun, or at least enjoyable, even when you're taking it quite seriously, and we're going to explore some of the ways to do that today. All right, the first thing to do is separate the feelings around the production of your writing from the feelings around consumption of it. What you write is supposed to be enjoyable to read. That's kind of the whole point. The feelings that you experience when writing something don't necessarily correlate with the experience that a reader will have when reading it. There are a lot of exciting scenes to read that are kind of tedious to write. Something like a big fight scene with a whole bunch of characters throwing punches can be kind of stressful and irritating to write, even though it's exciting to read. The most impactful scenes in your novel are often stressful to write because there's so much riding on those scenes and you have to get it right, and that adds a lot of stress to the process. Producing something that feels good to read often feels bad, but not always. If you are really struggling with your story, if it really isn't engaging to work on, then that can be a sign that something is just not working. You have to separate the labor of producing an effective story from the negative feelings that you have when you know you're writing something that is just going to be boring. You're going to get bored of your story because the process of writing it will strip away all of the novelty, and you'll become really familiar with it. But the story should still affect you in some way. You should still have some passion for it. That's what can keep the writing enjoyable. We get caught up in the hard work of writing. We live in a very productivity-oriented world. We are obsessed with purpose and meaning. Fiction is for enjoyment. Enjoyment should factor into the process. And if the writer isn't enjoying that process, that can just be part of the process. But it can also be a problem with the process. It can be a sign that you're writing the wrong thing or you've taken your project in the wrong direction. There's that saying, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader, and I think it's true. If your project isn't enjoyable on some level, if it isn't affecting you, that doesn't necessarily just mean that you're in the doldrums of working on that project. It could mean there's a problem with the project. Next thing to make writing fun, and this one is going to seem kind of obvious, but it's actually work on projects that interest you. I would guess there's not an insignificant number of people out there writing in genres or in mediums that they don't even like and don't connect with. It's really easy to say just write projects that you enjoy, but a lot of people don't do that, I think. There's external pressures, there's the sunk cost fallacy if you spent a lot of time working in one genre or in one medium. There's all kinds of reasons that writers stick with genres and stories that don't actually make them happy. If writing is really not enjoyable for you, it could be that you're writing the wrong thing. Maybe your writing group is a bunch of sci-fi fantasy nerds, but you'd be better off writing romance. Maybe you find novels a slog and you would be better off writing flash fiction. There's always pressures like marketability if you're concerned about that, and there's judgment from other people, and the fact that starting over in a new medium or a new genre means a whole new learning curve. But if you want more enjoyment out of writing, it might be worth going against some of that stuff. The next thing is to recognize when you're in the dip. There is this process that you go through in any sort of long-term difficult pursuit. All kinds of people have recognized this process, and it goes by different types of names. Some people call it the dip or the valley of despair, the widow's canyon, desperation gulch, the ravine of regret, the crevice of cruelty. Should I keep going with these? Basically, when you start something, you have all of this excitement and energy. You see all of these possibilities and potential. Motivation is really strong and you feel really good at this point. Then problems start to creep in. You start seeing flaws and issues you didn't anticipate. The sheer amount of work required starts to really dawn on you and things start to look bleak. This is the valley of despair, or the dip, or the crevice of cruelty, or whatever people call it. When the initial motivation for your project goes away and all you're left with is tons of work to do and a whole bunch of problems to solve. You may also have the pressure of deadlines and due dates at this point that weighs you down as well. The worst part of the dip or the valley or whatever is that the thing you're working on still isn't done yet. So there's no payoff, there's no sense of accomplishment, there's no benefit yet. Most people quit at this point at the valley for good reason. This is when things get really tough. When you're in the dip of a project, things are going to suck no matter what. Starting over or moving to something else is going to seem like a really good idea, because starting something new means you start at that initial high point of motivation and blissful ignorance because you haven't discovered all the problems of the new thing yet. The valley doesn't last forever, though. You do come out the other side of it. You do move past it as you start to solve problems, as your efforts start to pay off. Things will get better. But you can only get there if you push through it. Starting over on something new will not necessarily help you. I don't know if there's a way to make the dip fun. I don't think it's possible to do that. I think the important thing to recognize is that you're going through a season of difficulty, and the way to get through it is to just keep going. During that season of difficulty, writing is not going to be fun, but it will become fun again when you get to the other side of it. And when it becomes enjoyable, it will become even more enjoyable because of all the things that you've overcome. And the last piece of advice to make writing more enjoyable is to focus on the instrument, which is you. You are the instrument. Whether or not something is enjoyable in the first place is determined partially by the activity, but also by the person who's coming to that activity. Attitude and approach, expectations and beliefs all contribute to whether something is a miserable slog or an enjoyable experience. What often makes something unenjoyable are the things we bring to it. Your writing might not be fun because you're making it not fun. Maybe you're excessively critical of yourself. Maybe you have too many doubts. Maybe you're resisting doing what you want to do with the story because of some kind of outside pressure or fear of starting over or something else. The problems with the process, the reason that you're not enjoying writing, could be because of all the other stuff you're bringing to the process. It might have nothing to do with the writing itself. Fun is an incredibly subjective thing. I learned this the first time I went to a nightclub. A part of whether something is fun or not is in whether you decide that something is fun or not. Now, that decision is often driven by mindset and expectations and a whole bunch of things that are very hard to change. So it's not just flipping a switch. But your mindset and expectations, when given the chance, will suck the enjoyment out of literally anything. Every experience exists on a spectrum from objectively joyful and objectively miserable and impossible to make joyful. Very few things are actually at the extremes of that. Most things are actually in the middle or approaching the ends. In the middle of that range, there is a range of experiences that will either be fun or not fun, enjoyable or not enjoyable, depending on how you approach them. That's where your mindset and expectations and what you think going into something can actually make a big difference. I think that writing thoroughly exists in the middle of that. It can be miserable if you make it miserable, and it can be enjoyable if you put work into making it enjoyable. But you have to put that work in. It takes effort to move writing from miserable to enjoyable. Conscious, consistent effort on your part. So, fixing an issue with enjoyment of writing might have nothing to do with fixing something within the writing. It might be an entirely internal thing that you have to work through on your own. Speaking of being on your own, you are about to be on your own again because this video is coming to an end because this is the end of the video. So there you have it. I'd love to hear what you think about this in the comments down below. Please share some of the ways that you make writing more fun and enjoyable. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.